genius stuff, because anybody can do anything in the studio. But if that's this.
In an industry characterized by rivalry, intimidation, gossip, and sabotage, Taj Mahal shared that his love for some musicians kept growing. From the early days of his career in the 1960s until now, he has seen it all: the backstabbing, the jealousy, and the relentless competition that could easily turn friends into enemies. Yet, through it all, there were artists who stood out not just for their music, but for their spirit, their character, and the way they inspired him both on and off stage. Born Henry St. Clair Fredericks Jr., he stepped into the music world in the late 1960s with a sound so bold that critics didn't know what to call it. From Leaving Trunk to Fishin' Blues and Queen Bee, Taj fused blues with reggae, Caribbean rhythms, African folk, and even Hawaiian influences, becoming a pioneer of what many now call world blues. His refusal to conform didn't just set him apart, it made him timeless. For more than 6 decades, Taj's music has carried the soul of history, telling the stories of pain, joy, and resilience. But behind that legacy was a man navigating an industry that could be merciless. The backstabbing, the politics, and the endless comparisons wore heavy on it. Still, he kept playing because there were musicians who gave him strength. Artists whose work lit fires in him when the spotlight dimmed, whose friendship reminded him that music was bigger than ego, and whose genius inspired him to reach deeper into his own craft. Now at 82, Taj Mahal reveals the 6 musicians who are his favorites, those who shaped his journey, the ones he says reminded him why he never quit even when the world turned cold. Surprisingly, instead of just a person, Taj revealed that the Allman Brothers Band is #1 on his list.
The Allman Brothers, and I remember meeting them back in the 60s.
The Allman Brothers Band was anything but average. Formed in Jacksonville, Florida in 1969, the group was a storm of raw energy, talent, and soul. With Duane Allman's slide guitar skills, Greg Allman's voice carrying the weight of Southern gospel and blues, and the powerful rhythm section that drove their jams into uncharted territory, they became one of the most influential bands of their era. Songs like Whipping Post, Melissa, and Midnight Rider weren't just hits. They were anthems that defined a generation. The Allmans were popular for live performances that could stretch a song into a 20-minute journey, blending rock, blues, country, and jazz with seamless mastery. They were pioneers of the Southern rock movement, but their music went far beyond labels. It was deeply human, deeply alive. For Taj, meeting with the Allman Brothers Band was nothing short of a blessing. At the time, he was building his own career in California, fusing blues with global influences and struggling against an industry that didn't quite know where to place him. Then came the Allmans, who didn't care about labels or categories. To them, Taj wasn't an outsider or a rival. He was a brother. From the first meeting, they welcomed him into their circle with open arms, treating him like he had been part of the band all along. Duane and Greg in particular went out of their way to make Taj feel included. They invited him to hang out, to jam, to share the stage, and to simply be part of their world. At a time when gigs were scarce and opportunities hard-won, the Allmans even vouched for him, persuading club owners and promoters to give Taj a spot. "They treated me like a brother," Taj said, "like I was one of them, even though I wasn't in the band." That sense of belonging meant everything. In the chaos of California's 1960s music scene, where artists were often pitted against each other and industry politics loomed large, the Allman Brothers gave Taj a family. They ate together, laughed together, and spent long nights immersed in music that poured straight from the heart. With them, it wasn't about competition or stardom. It was about love for the craft and respect for one another. And then there was the music they made. Taj shared that the Allman Brothers knew what good music was. When they hit the stage, something unforgettable happened.
Years, but the main thing was that there were Southern guys and they played real good music. They knew what music was.
The Allmans' expansive jams collided with Taj's deep-rooted blues, creating performances that felt less like concerts and more like spiritual experiences. Taj shared that every collaboration with them was something he looked forward to, because he knew the magic would always be there. More than 50 years later, Taj still holds the Allman Brothers Band close to his heart. He doesn't just speak of them as legendary musicians, though they certainly were. He speaks of them as family, as brothers who gave him a sense of place when he needed it most. Their generosity, their camaraderie, and their music left an imprint on his life that no award or record sale could ever equal. Taj remains grateful for the brotherhood they offered, the gigs they helped him secure, the laughter they shared, and the unforgettable music they created together. For Taj, the Allman Brothers weren't just a band, they were a home at the beginning of his career. Still speaking about a band, Taj also named Rolling Stones Band as his #2 favorite.
I got invited to
According to Taj, unlike Allman Brothers who were like his home, some years into his career, the Rolling Stones band were there for him when a lot of things went on in his life. Formed in London in 1962, the Stones, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman, and Brian Jones quickly carved out a reputation as the bad boys of rock and roll. With hits like Satisfaction, Paint It Black, Jumpin' Jack Flash, and Brown Sugar, they were not just making music, they were defining an era. By the late 1960 seconds and into the 70 seconds, their name alone carried power across the globe. For Taj Mahal, meeting the Stones at that stage of his life was almost like crossing into another world. He had already been playing his fusion of blues, world, and folk sounds, but he was still fighting the grind of an industry that often sidelined black blues musicians while celebrating rock bands who borrowed heavily from the same roots. The Rolling Stones were different. They didn't just borrow from the blues, they openly worshipped it. And when Taj entered their orbit, they treated him with the kind of respect that very few bands of their stature ever extended. "They didn't look at me like some bluesman in the corner," Taj once said. "They saw me, respected me, and wanted me there." At a time when Taj was facing personal battles and professional roadblocks, the Stones offered more than just collaboration. They gave him friendship, inclusion, and a place to stand shoulder to shoulder on some of the biggest stages in the world.
But other musicians, those guys were the best that there ever was and ever.
In the late 1970 seconds, Taj found himself performing alongside them at high-profile shows, sharing in the electricity of crowds who were ready to lose themselves in music that fused blues, rock, and soul. He recalls how natural it felt. No ego, no hierarchy. With the Stones, Taj explained, it was like we were all chasing the same spirit, the same fire. But it wasn't just the stage. Taj admitted that during certain dark chapters in his life, the Stones' friendship was a lifeline. The industry could be cruel, critics could be dismissive, and personal struggles weighed heavily. But knowing that one of the biggest bands in the world valued him, believed in him, and wanted him around gave him the strength to keep going. That kind of validation, he says, cannot be measured. Looking back, Taj doesn't just call the Rolling Stones one of his favorite groups because of their global fame or their countless hits. He calls them his favorites because when life was heavy, they made him feel lighter. When the industry was cold, they gave him warmth. And when his music seemed misunderstood, they celebrated it as if it were their own. For Taj Mahal, the Stones weren't just legends, they were friends and allies. Number 3. Otis Redding. Redding's career, though tragically short, remains one of the most electrifying in the history of American music. Born in Dawson, Georgia in 1941, Redding emerged in the early 1960 seconds as a powerhouse of soul music. With his gravelly voice, unmatched stage presence, and songs like These Arms of Mine, Respect, and the immortal Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, he became one of the leading figures of Stax Records and a symbol of soul's raw emotional power. His performances weren't just concerts, they were experiences that left audiences stunned, moved, and forever changed. By the mid-1960 seconds, Otis Redding was not just a star, he was a force of nature, a man who could command a room with a single note.
Otis Redding at the Whiskey a Go.
For Taj, meeting Redding in the 1960 seconds was nothing short of life-changing. He recalled attending a show where Redding was performing, and from the moment the soul singer walked onto the stage, Taj said he knew he was witnessing something one of a kind. Taj admitted to the interviewer that he hadn't seen a performance like that ever. No musician has that kind of energy, and coming from an artist who shared stages with some of the greatest names in history, those words carried weight.
I've seen a performer like that since then. I mean, just
After greeting Redding that night, Taj realized that it wasn't just Redding's voice or his songs, it was his spirit. He radiated a kind of energy that seemed to flow directly into everyone around him, lifting them higher. Taj recalled how watching Redding throw himself fully into every song, sweating, shouting, almost burning with passion, changed something inside him that night. He realized that performing wasn't about perfection, it was about giving everything you had, every single time. Redding wasn't holding back, wasn't protecting himself for tomorrow's gig. He was pouring himself out completely for the people in that room. That lesson stayed with Taj for decades, shaping how he approached his own performances. He inspired me for years, Taj confessed. When I stepped on stage, I thought about Redding, about that fire, that truth, that commitment to the music. That's what I wanted to give. Redding's sudden death in a plane crash in December 1967 devastated the music world, and Taj was among those who felt the loss deeply. But even in death, Redding's influence lived on. Taj carried that memory of seeing him live as a compass, a reminder that energy and authenticity matter more than anything else in music. Taj went ahead to say that Redding wasn't just a singer he admired, he was a standard to live up to, a source of inspiration that fueled him across decades. And though their time together was brief, the impression Redding left has lasted a lifetime. In Taj's words, there will never be another Otis. Number 4. Jesse Ed Davis.
It was always about the music, and it was always straight ahead. And
In an interview with Red Buffalo, when he was asked about his experience working with Jesse Ed Davis, he said that Jesse was an easy person to work with. Born in Norman, Oklahoma in 1944, Davis was a Kiowa Native American who became one of the most versatile and respected guitarists of his time. By the late 1960s, he was already establishing himself as a session musician for some of the biggest names in music. His guitar work was smooth, soulful, and instantly recognizable, able to slip between genres without ever losing its unique character. But long before he became a sought-after session man, Jesse Ed Davis carved out a crucial place in Taj Mahal's story. When Taj formed his first major band in the mid-1960s, Jesse Ed Davis was right there beside him. Their collaboration was not only natural, it was electric. Davis became Taj's guitarist, and together they created a sound that was raw, vibrant, and far ahead of its time. Albums like Taj Mahal, The Natural Blues, and Giant Steps showcased their chemistry, with Davis's guitar weaving perfectly around Taj's gritty vocals and eclectic arrangements. Tracks like Statesboro Blues and Leaving Trunk became proof of their brilliance as a unit, and many fans still argue that those early albums remain some of Taj's finest work precisely because of Davis's presence. Taj described Jesse as more than just a guitarist. He was a brother in arms, someone who shared his vision of bringing blues to a wider, younger audience without stripping it of its roots. He also described working with Jesse as like riding a wave. You didn't need to force it, you just had to let it carry you. Offstage, he was the same. No drama, no ego, no tension. He was the kind of bandmate who would sit and listen when others were talking, then cut through the noise with just a few words or a single lick on his guitar. It made Taj trust him completely, both as a musician and as a friend. What struck Taj the most was Jesse's ability to handle pressure. In the late 60s, recording sessions could be chaotic, with record executives breathing down their necks and producers demanding hit after hit. While some musicians cracked under the weight, Jesse had a calming presence. He would crack a joke, tune his guitar, and suddenly everyone remembered why they were there: to make music, not to fight. Taj said, he was like water, always flowing, always finding a way around whatever was blocking the music. Of course, Taj also saw Jesse's darker side. Davis battled addiction, and though his talent never dimmed, his personal struggles weighed heavy on him. Yet, even in those moments, Taj admired his heart. He never let his demons take away his soul, Taj said. When Jesse played, you heard the truth. Taj also added that Davis was quite weird but in a good way, and he loved being around him. Number 5. Leon Russell. When Taj Mahal speaks of Leon Russell, it isn't with the reverence one reserves for a distant icon, but with the warmth and admiration reserved for a kindred spirit. Taj said that what set Leon apart in the unpredictable, often chaotic music industry was his humility. While others stormed into rooms demanding to be heard, Leon never raised his voice, never raged to get something done. He simply sat at the piano, let his fingers do the work, and allowed the music to speak louder than any ego ever could. Taj admired that. In an industry dominated by fiery tempers, endless competition, and larger-than-life personalities, Leon's calm presence was refreshing.
an incredibly humble person who didn't have to rage.
He didn't need to remind people of who he was. His artistry said it all. Whether playing alongside legends or quietly working in the background, Leon carried himself with a grace that Taj deeply respected. He wasn't trying to be bigger than the music, Taj once shared. He was just letting the music be as big as it needed to be. One of the most outstanding personal moments for Taj came through a song that had loved for years. Long before he ever associated it with Leon Russell, Taj had fallen in love with This Masquerade. Its haunting melody and deeply felt lyrics resonated with him, carrying him through late nights on the road and quiet mornings before shows. It was a song he would return to time and time again, never tiring of its beauty. For years, he didn't know who the writer was. It was simply a song that touched his spirit. When Taj eventually discovered that the man behind the masterpiece was none other than Leon Russell, he was stunned. For years, he had wondered who wrote something that timeless, that tender, that true.
I didn't until years later know that Leon had written that song. But there's two.
That realization deepened Taj's admiration. Leon was not only humble in the way he carried himself, but also in how he approached his art. He didn't wave banners over his work or scream for credit. He created, released it into the world, and let it find its way into people's hearts. Taj loved that about it. Their time together in the music world only confirmed what Taj already felt. Collaborating with Leon was effortless because there was no battle for dominance, no competition for the spotlight. Leon's humility created space for everyone in the room to shine, and that made the music stronger. He wasn't a man who demanded respect by force. He earned it by the sheer honesty of his craft. Russell remains one of those rare figures who carried greatness without ever needing to announce it as long as Taj is concerned. Number 1. Keb Mo.
Well, we've been looking across the universe at one another for a while.
Many decades after building their reputations as unforgettable musicians, Taj for the first time collaborated with Keb Mo to create a song, and that song ended up earning them a Grammy Award in 2018. The project was their joint album, Taj Mahal, and it wasn't just another collaboration between two seasoned bluesmen. It was a meeting of generations, a merging of souls, and a reminder that blues, when handled with respect and creativity, never loses its fire. By the time they came together, Taj had already lived a long, remarkable career, shaping the blues world with his innovation, eclecticism, and refusal to be boxed in. Keb Mo, meanwhile, was part of a newer wave of blues musicians who had carried the genre into the modern era, blending tradition with contemporary sensibilities. On paper, the collaboration seemed ambitious. In reality, it became one of the most natural and fruitful partnerships of Taj's later career. The Grammy they won for Best Contemporary Blues Album was the cherry on top, but for Taj, the recognition was secondary. What mattered was the joy of finding someone he could trust musically, someone who could meet him halfway without hesitation. Even Keb Mo himself attested to the flow they both had. Taj admitted that collaborating with Keb Mo reminded him of his early days with the Allman Brothers Band. Those moments of belonging, when music flowed like conversation, and every note carried the weight of friendship and respect. Beyond the music, Taj admired Keb Mo as a man. He often spoke about Keb's discipline, his dedication to the craft, and his ability to navigate the industry without losing himself. Taj had seen many musicians drown in the chaos of fame or get stuck chasing trends. But Keb Mo had always held on to his identity. That kind of integrity struck Taj deeply, especially in an era where authenticity could easily be compromised. Most importantly, Keb Mo is among his favorite because Keb Mo gave him a gift in his later years. The chance to feel the spark of fresh creativity, to be challenged, to be reminded that no matter how long you've been in the game, there's always room to grow when you're with the right partner. Just like Keb Mo, the 5 names mentioned above contributed to making Taj's music career worthwhile. Let's know your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, like and share.